are causing the collapse of the WNBA, causing the collapse of women's sports. This is an inside job by the actual players in women's athletics. They are destroying themselves and their own league. They are destroying women's sports. No one should be surprised that a group of mostly angry lesbians are destroying women's sports.
Oh,
they're not leaders.
Oh, hey, Whitlock, you going there, ain't you, bro? Damn.
The words hit like a gut punch. The WNBA, the ascent was now facing an unparalleled internal breakdown, an inside plot engineered. The Caitlin Clark craze saw with dismay as the very players they supported actively undercut the league's momentum. Whitlock didn't directly at the players for their role in this decline. This wasn't merely a slump, it was an intentional implosion, forcing adherents to challenge all their convictions concerning women's basketball. The association's future, formerly strong with rising viewership, now teeters on the brink, undermined by those entrusted to safeguard it. The players themselves were driving fans off.
Hopped behind the steering wheel and turned it around and started driving it the right direction. But because Caitlin Clark didn't fit the lesbian stereotype, she hadn't adopted the lesbian lifestyle, and because she's white, the lesbians and the jealous, angry black women have ganged up on her, pushed her out, and made all sports fans deal with, like, who are these people we're supporting?
The assertion didn't halt there. Whitlock contended that inside the league, certain individuals actively undermined women's sports internally. He sharply criticized specific players regarding their matriarchal leadership, asserting their approach drove the whole enterprise into decline. This story portrayed a situation of self-destruction, where the exact individuals meant to advance the sport were instead bringing about its end. The public's view altered significantly, shifting from enthusiasm to deep dismay once these internal disputes became what began as a growth period rapidly transformed into a fight for survival, directly due to player conduct and mindsets.
Delusional. Allowed Nafisha Collier, whose husband and her and Breanna Stewart have started a rival league to the WNBA, they've allowed them to be the leaders of their negotiation for a new CBA agreement, collective bargaining agreement in the WNBA. People that have started a competitor to the WNBA are leading the negotiations for a new WNBA contract. This is insanity and retardation that we have never seen.
Damn.
No lie, WNBA viewership plunged, a sharp indicator of declining public appeal as the initial Caitlin Clark buzz began to diminish. This wasn't about the general quality of women's basketball, but an obvious watching solely for just a single precise motive. The notion this spike in viewing figures stemmed from a shared drive promoted by figures such as Monica McNutt and ESPN was unmasked as a ruse and a fabrication. The audience was assured a thriving, expanding league, yet was provided with an offering suffering beneath internal conflict and a quickly shrinking following.
In unrivaled. I know that some of you think that I'm a sexist pig, and maybe I am. But we just have to deal in reality here, guys and girls. Women aren't built for this type of leadership. It's all feelings over facts. It's there's no logic here. Hey, just pay us.
It was asserted was the singular force behind the league's recent explosion in popularity, brought new life to the WNBA, women's basketball, and women's sports generally. Her impact was likened only to that of Michael Jordan, solely uplifted an entire sport. In stark contrast, LeBron James was depicted as simply boarding a moving train, while Clark rescued a league going awry and redirected its path. This sharp contrast emphasized the vast, almost isolated responsibility Clark bore and the profound bitterness growing among those who wouldn't acknowledge her distinct power. The truth, though deniable, was fans flocked only for Caitlin Clark. The notion other players were equally key for the rating surge or the sudden it was considered an illusion. Some players, fooled by their importance, had allowed themselves to be convinced by media narratives that it was about everything. This core psychological position behind their appeal result perception. The fans, however, saw recognizing the singular draw and turning away when the focus shifted from Clark
basketball, and they brought this whole thing to life. It was all a gimmick and a lie. Caitlin Clark injected life into the WNBA, into women's basketball, and into women's sports. She's been the most impactful athlete that we've seen since Michael Jordan.
Facts. Yo, Whitlock, you on that. You on it today. Keep cooking. Keep cooking, Whitlock. You cooking that ass right now. I'm telling you. Whitlock is on. These people were actually, first of all, they knew they wasn't the reason.
Growing animosity toward Clark was recognized as a primary cause of the league's issues. Her unique public persona and audience ground, which diverged from established league narratives, drew ire from specific matters within the league. Whitlock contended that since Clark did not suit specific common perceptions and was white, she drew antagonism from certain against her, forcing her aside and estranging a large portion of the athletic audience. This internal dispute, fueled by envy and factionalism, rendered the organization deeply unpopular with the public, resulting in a significant departure of fresh spectators.
Remember that? And I got to give Kathy Engelbert and the ownership of the WNBA, I got to give them credit. They just said, you know what? Right now, the way the media is rigged, the way social media is rigged, we can't win a debate with these delusional, angry, racist, lesbian women. We can't. The whole media is rigged in a way to favor them. So you know what we're going to do? We're just going to shut our mouth and back up and let these women, you got the con.
Once enthusiastic, they began to question their loyalty. Do I truly wish to back what's left of this disorder? This sentiment grew widespread. The conduct and public images of several key athletes, including A'ja Wilson, Paige Beckers, and even Megan Rapinoe, faced scrutiny. The matter extended beyond just basketball, but concerned individuals served as suitable role models for young girls. The perceived insanity and craziness emanating from certain players reevaluate their backing, creating a rift between the league and its prospective new audience.
Loved Caitlin Clark. But do I really want to support the rest of this mess? Do I really want to uplift and have out there as role models for your daughters, nieces, sisters, other young women? Do I really want A'ja Wilson, Paige Beckers, Nafisa Collier, who's married? But do I really want them as role models for young girls? Do I really want Megan Rapinoe as a role model for young girls? These women are...
The NBA's commissioner, Kathy Engelbert, and team owners were unexpectedly lauded for a certain tactic. Their decision was to remain silent and step aside, letting the delusional, angry, racist lesbian women, as Whitlock described them, seize power. Their rationale proved coldly strategic. The media environment was manipulated, rendering any debate victory against these outspoken groups unobtainable. Thus, rather than contesting, they practically relinquished control, observing as athletes such as Megan Rapinoe, Nafisa Collier, and Breanna Stewart steered it into ruin. This deliberate withdrawal by management revealed much regarding the internal power of the league. A rival founded by Nafisa Collier, and a disputed matter. Collier had earlier loudly criticized WNBA leadership, but the rival league's own poor ratings proved an embarrassment, drawing only 30,000 viewers for a Paige Beckers game. Unrivaled unintentionally revealed a painful truth. Neither it nor the WNBA could attract major viewership without Caitlin Clark or even Angel Reese. This venture meant to empower players instead highlighted their limited collective appeal, further harming their negotiating stance and fan trust. The most egregious mistake was exposed within the current collective bargaining agreement, CBA negotiations. Nafessa Collier, a key figure in the rival-unrivaled league, was leading the talks for a new WNBA contract. The shocking conflict of interest was termed madness and folly by observers. The current league displayed an unmatched degree of foolishness, ensuring volatility and feeding the idea that some players actively oppose the WNBA's welfare, pushing away the shrinking supporters even more. The collective bargaining talks verged on collapse, jeopardizing the whole 2026 WNBA season. Athletes Angel Reese among them were supposedly asking for $1 or $2 million each year for barely 40-odd matches, which hardly anyone wishes to view. This position was irrational, especially considering the WNBA loses millions of dollars annually. Whitlock stressed the illogic of turning down a solid bid featuring $1,300,000 and rookie wages of $200,000, calling player demands lunacy and like terrorism. These excessive demands were moving the league nearer to collapse. A disputed viewpoint arose. The notion that women, especially those exhibiting particular leadership styles, are unsuited for this kind of direction. Their approach elevated feelings above facts and was devoid of fundamental logic. Rather than pursuing sustainable growth, the demands were simply for them to pay us what we desired. This sweeping generalization, while provocative, underscored the exasperation felt by certain observers concerning the players' perceived irrational monetary demands and negotiation strategies, further reinforcing $80,000 a year was an insult. Whitlock, using his own background of making $5 an hour in a thriving field, pointed out the WNBA's continuous monetary setbacks. He argued that players' claims of being underbid and mistreated were absurd, especially given the league's precarious financial state. This making it difficult for fans to empathize with, viewed as self-important and unreal. Beyond merely player salaries, the collective stance of specific feminist women and irate individuals was branded as terrorism one could not negotiate with. Such an extreme portrayal highlighted the profound schism and the indignation sensed by certain onlookers. Though severe, it expressed exasperation over what were perceived as unyielding demands and an unwillingness to grasp the league's economic realities. This viewpoint, despite being contentious, found resonance with a portion of the audience alienated by the perceived extremism within the sport. Even Commissioner Kathy Engelbert encountered a particular brand of censure. Accurately, stepping back, she wasn't exempt from being termed a lunatic for her various failures. Such issues involved overlooking crucial matters, like poor refereeing and management missteps. Still, her choice to let the players self-destruct was seen by some as a vital, though harsh reply to their unyielding demands. This subtle leadership insight highlighted the complex self-generated harm afflicting the league. This extensive disenchantment was not restricted to a few vocal detractors. Prominent media figures and shows formerly covering the WNBA had wholly forsaken it. Cowherd, a prominent sports commentator, addressing the league lockout completely. First Take, a leading sports discussion program. This collective turning away by mainstream sports media signals of interest directly attributed to the nonsense regarding the players. The league's inside conflicts had grown so repellent that even its former winners were choosing to withdraw from. It was proposed that players should publicly state their current benefits from are truly charity or welfare. Rather than asking for silly star deals early, they ought to be grateful and fully dedicate to developing the league until such incomes are fully viable. This call for modesty stood sharply with the aggressive negotiation going beyond the WNBA, including wider cult driven by angry individuals and feminists. The instance of Megan Rapinoe advocating contentious transgender topics in advertisements was offered as further proof of this apparent rift. Critics argue actions were actively undermining women's by establishing avenues for men to rival women. This broader critique tied player conduct in the WNBA to wider societal discussions, fueling the opposition and alienating even more prospective followers. Eventually, the narrative landed on a dire outcome. WNBA athletes were clearly contributing to the demise of the WNBA and deliberately ending the buzz around Caitlin Clark. Of actions, perceived as nasty work, had turned a lot of people off and pushed a lot gone. What started as unparalleled enthusiasm owing to a single player had deteriorated into a public display of inner strife, perceived right and self-inflicted ruin. The supporters keen for a new era of women's basketball and PA confronts a pivotal stage, its fate now poised uncertainly, a stark result of its own players' deeds. The initial wave of audience excitement sparked by Caitlin Clark has been methodically doused by internal conflict, interpreted as thanklessness and a startling indifference to the league's economic state. In consequence, supporters who formerly championed women's basket, it's disheartened by a product they perceive as actively sabotaging itself. The query stands: can the league heal from this deep self-caused injury, or is the public favor it once possessed forever ruined by the very athletes it aimed to raise?